And welcome in. This is the Kelly Sheffield Show, brought to you by North and South Seafood and Smokehouse on the Wisconsin Badgers Volleyball Radio Network. So we've got a lot to tackle here as the season is done. Wisconsin makes it to the Final Four before falling in 5 sets to Kentucky. On this episode, we're going to take you through the year. We're going to take you through what happens after that final match against the Wildcats and everything leading up to where we are currently with Wisconsin Badgers volleyball. And a little bit later on, we will take questions from fans. But now joined by the Badgers head coach, Kelly Sheffield. Congratulations on another Final Four for you and your staff and this program. Congratulations. How have things been?
Crazy. It's probably it. It's but you're right. What a special year, right? If you kind of have a setback of we had leading into this past year of what we lost, right? Sarah Franklin, Yulia Orzel, Caroline Crawford, Devin Robinson, Anna Smrek, all graduated. Our top 3 Libros decided to transfer out. And this team that we just had went further in the tournament, had the exact same conference record and went further in the tournament. And this team grew about as much as any team that I've been a part of from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. And just it's weird because you're so proud, right when it's over. And so you're so proud of them, but yet, it's 15-13 the 5th to go and play for a national championship, and trying to put all that into place, especially for the team right after. That's a really tough thing, but you look at it and it's Carter Booth finished the year second in the country in hitting percentage, and Mimi second in the country in kills per set. Charlie first in the country in assists per set. Our team hitting percentage second in the country. I mean, there was so many so much to be proud of this season, right? And then just what we are able to do in the tournament, and just the hitting percentages that we were putting up against everybody, how we were passing and handling the serve. It was we were playing at a really high level for the majority of that tournament.
Yeah, and it all comes together with Charlie missing half the season. She comes back. Everything just starts to seem to become more efficient, more productive. You get in the tournament. You guys are able. Carter takes it to another level. I mean,
very much so.
It was insane. And then even in that final match, literally the best match offensively Carter has ever had as far as producing kills. The best match that Mimi Collier has ever had in kills as well. I mean, when you always talk to me about you're trying to get the team to play its best in December, it seemed like that was this season.
Yeah, it was. And Carter got to a place emotionally and confident wise that you hope that your players can tap into at the end of their career, right? And Allie Andrew, I mean, she's in that match and just begging for the ball more. Give me the ball. Just there was just a ferociousness, and you saw the confidence at the end of the year that Una was playing with, and just how much growth Kristen Simon had, and we're making some matchup subs along the way, whether it's bringing Trinity in or Madison Quest, and some blocking switches where we were doing some things with sending Egan to the left and to block, and Mimi to the right. So, some of those types of things that were happening, that were just that we were just executing at a really, really high level when it's on.
Yeah. How much will you miss, and how do you replace or try to replace the leadership that I think Carter probably brought down the stretch of the season?
Well, you miss it if nobody else learns from her. If you don't grab the reins, that was one of the things I remember I don't know what year it was. Maybe it was right after Lauren and Haley left. Maybe it was that 2017 team or something. But what you know, we had players that just didn't. We had great leaders and just not ready or willing to grab the reins right at that point. And one of the things when everybody gets back is I'm going to show a film, television cameras of what Carter was like in the matches, highlight film of what she was like in the matches, of between points, communicating. I mean, there was a point that when we were playing Texas, that a huddle, she was during a timeout, she was out of the match, and everybody, the coaches were talking together before I went and talked, and the team is kind of discussing, and Carter leaves the timeout and goes and grabs food and brings it back and sits it in front. Doesn't say anything, but it's just servant leadership in moments that it just, those are the little things that are happening behind the scenes that you're not waiting to be told to do something. There was a time to talk, and then there's a time to serve. And how she grew as a leader, how Charlie grew as a leader. I mean, those were just things as a coach that you live for. It's what there were so many moments of this season, and certainly that was playing out at the end that you're like, man, this is why I got into this profession. This is the really good stuff here.
And then finally, just to wrap up the season, I want to move to what happens after the year next. But how would you describe that Kentucky match? You guys come in just right out the gates, dominate, and then obviously it gets to the fifth, and Kentucky comes out and takes a big lead, and you guys battle back down to within one before they win it by 2. How would you describe that match?
Yeah, I mean, think about this: the Sweet 16, the Elite Eight, and in the semifinals, we hit 348 in those 3 matches. Those 3 matches, Stanford, Texas, and Kentucky, we hit 348. We passed a 2.25. I mean, that is really, really doing things at a really high level. And you come out in the first set, and we just, you just punch them in the nose, right? And but there's still attack mode that is happening from our team. We were still playing pretty well. We gave up too many points in the second set behind the service line, too many of those. And I think other than that, we were still playing well. But I think what that allowed them to do, if you kind of think of it as like boxing, you go and you hit somebody and they're kind of dazed, and, you keep pounding away while they're kind of wobbly. And I think our service errors, although the rest of our game was still doing well, I thought our service errors allowed them to kind of recalibrate a little bit after that first set, let them off the hook a little bit. And it was just serve after serve. I think it was like all of them were kind of in a row, wasn't spread out. But they weren't able to pull away. We weren't able to pull away, and allowed them to stay in the fight a little bit. And then it was just on, and a lot of really good stuff. And in the fifth sets, I think they had a server that went back and that got on a run, cross court serving on us. And I think our first ball was going out, that it just got on us, and we were just a little bit tight on that and passed the ball that was going out of bounds. And then I think she went on like a 5-point run or something. And then we just stayed with it. I mean, that was really, really fun of just watching our team. Because if you think about it, I go back to that Texas match, the very first Texas match, the opening weekend. And we lose 29-27 in the first set. Second set was 25-20. And then we just get pounded in the third. We just, just like, we're done with the fight. And we had a long talk in the locker room that right there, when your back's against the wall, that's character defining. And how we grew when our back was against the wall in the semifinal, the Final Four. And just chipped away. And we found ourselves, 14-13. We got ourselves in and gave ourselves a chance. And, we kind of missed the block. They went off and won, but that could have gone either way. I mean, that match could have gone either way. We could have gone in there and swept them. We really could. We could have come back and won that fifth. But it wasn't because we weren't playing at a high level. We did a lot of things really, really well against an elite team.
Yeah, great season in 2025. And then you have to reconstruct and get ready for 2026. And that's what I want to touch on next with the transfer portal and everything that has happened since that loss to Kentucky. So keep it right here. We'll continue on with Badgers head coach Kelly Sheffield on the Kelly Sheffield Show, brought to you by North and South Seafood and Smokehouse on the Wisconsin Badgers Volleyball Radio Network. And this is the Kelly Sheffield Show, brought to you by North and South Seafood and Smokehouse on the Wisconsin Badgers Volleyball Radio Network with Wisconsin head coach Kelly Sheffield. Your fan questions in a little bit. All right, so you guys lose to Kentucky at the national semifinals, 15-13 in the fifth set. Can you take me back to that moment and everything that's led up to where we are right now talking to each other? The game's over, the season's done, you're walking back to the locker room. What's that like?
Your head is going a million miles an hour. I mean, you're just it's a devastating moment right there, right? I mean, you're just trying everything. Dreams are crushed. Right. I mean, you're proud, but dreams are crushed and goals are crushed and careers are done. So you're walking back to, and trying to formulate your mind as you're walking to the locker room. How do you want to address that? Because I can promise you that, coaches aren't planning that talk going into that match, so it's just, a lot of it's happening on the fly. And so you got all these thoughts and you want to try to your best. It's not time for a big speech, but you want to have a little bit of perspective. And so all of us go in and, I told them I was proud of them. I was proud of their fight and proud of their growth. Told them how much I enjoyed coaching them. I really enjoyed this season about as much as any that I had. And that went from not just the players, but the staff and the coaches. Everybody was around. There was a lot of joy on the season, and I wanted to kind of address that. I thanked the seniors. I appreciated, and I thought everybody before they left, they needed to give them a hug, and there was a lot of tears at that time, right? And then you've got media that are wanting to come into the locker room. And I've never understood that. But you have media that is coming in there, and then you've got to wait. It's a long wait because you're kind of in a cooling off period that the NCAA puts you in before the press conference, and then you go and have the press conference, and then you pack up and leave. And the next morning was the All-American banquet. We knew if we were going to lose, if we lost that match, we'd stay for the All-American banquet and leave after that. So we knew we were staying the night there. I got back to the hotel, and I think within 30 minutes, I had somebody that sent me a text saying they were wanting to meet. And you kind of know what that means. And I said, hey, we'll meet when we get back to Madison, right? And we'll plan our meetings. And the next morning, early the next morning, I got a text from our compliance saying, hey, somebody has requested to go in the portal. And that was the first time that I'd learned from any of my players from compliance before the player. I've never had that before. Excuse me. And a little bit later, I get another one from compliance. Like, man, this is really odd. Usually I'm hearing it from the players, but I've got other players that are wanting to meet as well. And it became obvious that, people are wanting to talk. And so we went to the All-American banquet. And then as I'm getting back, I said, hey, anybody, started texting some of these guys and said, hey, we can meet now if you want to. And it was meeting after meeting after meeting on the second floor of the hotel. And, and it was players that were wanting to go into the portal. And most most of the time when somebody's asking me, I'm not, I'm not trying to talk them out of it. That's certainly not what we're trying to do. It's, if this isn't the right fit for them, then here, let's find you a right fit. You got a small window of opportunity for college, and let's go. And you're certainly disappointed. But Miley decided to leave, and I wants to play a little bit more. Totally understood that, and Trinity wanted to. Let me see here. Anaya wanted to leave. I thought that was a little bit too soon for her. I thought she probably should have stayed and fought a little bit more. But hey, it's. She felt like it was laid out of where she stood, and that was kind of final, and unfortunately, and decided to leave, and Addie Horner. Addie had no plans of leaving, but she just playing 10 matches, starting for 10 matches. She's just like, God, it was addicting. I need more of that. I want to play, and I totally got that. She was really a big part of our team's personality. Losing her, I think, was kind of tough, and Natalie Wardlow wanted to meet, but it was like, wait, what? And, and so she met, and I'm like, but she was confused. She thought we were just meeting with everybody. And I was like, well, all right, well, we're talking, but she's like, no, I'm just happy. I thought we were just doing meetings with everybody right now. Like, all right. But there was some of that stuff that was happening. They're just playing, kind of a, and then I was informed that Trinity and Tosha had gotten an agent, and were told not to tell me. And and that surprised me. Those were the two people that went to compliance. So how it was worded to them is, you go to compliance and you request this, then the agent had gotten into our team and asked for phone numbers specifically for those two, and convinced them to go, and not tell me that he was representing them. And so I learned that then, and and then we had meetings the next morning here from 9 until 5 straight. It was just one player after that. It was everybody on our team, and just kind of talking with them like what we do with everybody. And then I think later on that night, it kind of hit the fan with Una, which caught everybody off guard.
All right. So yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. So you're having meetings in the hotel. Is it just you? Is the staff there? Is it just you?
Just me.
So so if I get this correct, you found out at the end of the season that you had 2 players that were represented by an agent that you had no idea?
Correct.
So they were represented all season long?
I don't know when.
Oh, you don't know when.
So
and that process is usually player says, hey, coach, I think I want to leave here. And then, that process usually starts there, but people are doing that with their agents outside of the norm, or?
Yeah, I mean, most of our players don't have agents, right?
Right.
So,
okay.
But this particular agent represents 4 of our players.
Okay.
Grace Lopez is also, and Una, and so then we come to find out that Una is considering leaving, and which threw all of us. I mean, that was a shock, and hard to believe at first. We weren't sure what was going on, and then all of a sudden it became a totally different person than what we've known for 2 years. I mean, that was the only one that I ever fought for, because I just could not understand. I couldn't get my head wrapped around what was happening here. I mean, we were clearly being sabotaged, and didn't really understand why, so it always comes back to what is somebody's goals and what's somebody's dreams, and hers is to play at the highest level. And I said, look, man, you're, after having multiple conversations, I sent an email to the family and to her at 2:36 on Sunday morning, on Saturday night, whatever. and laid out, look, man, if you're wanting to do this, look what we just did for Sarah Franklin's career. Look what we just did for Mimi career in the year that she had. We laid out that the first half of the regular season, she hit 222. The second half of the regular season, she hit 266. And then the NCAA tournament, she hits 320. I said, that's exactly what your career should be looking like, I said, I reminded, hey, your first year, we gave you money and we put you on scholarship when you had a torn ACL, and we knew that. But what we weren't notified, that nobody told us, is that she had a bad shoulder when she got here. We didn't learn that until she got here, but we got that healthy as well. And so now all of a sudden you're healthy and doing well, and now you're going to take your talents elsewhere. We couldn't understand. We thought playing with the best setter in the game, playing off of the team that just went to a Final Four. Apparently she wasn't happy with her role. It's like you're second on the team in attempts and kills, and you're our leading attempt person coming back. This is set up perfectly for you to continue to grow. But for some reason, it got into her head that her role wasn't the right way, that we were trying to turn her into a DS. I could not understand where was this coming from. And then very upset that our incoming players were making more money than her. And I said, that is ludicrous. That is not, I don't know where you're getting this information, but our newcomers are not getting paid more than you. And she was certain, because somebody had told her, that they were, which is made up because nobody knows how much anybody is getting. But and so there became this disrespect that she felt like we were having, and so there was a lot of back and forth. But she stopped talking. I think we had one phone. She met in person. We had one phone conversation, and then she stopped talking with me. It was just the agent. She stopped talking with all teammates. Wasn't responding back to them. And so it became clear what was happening.
And that's all that's coming from an agent. And you've never had to deal with agents before, I'm assuming, right? Like,
no, I mean, that's part of it. I mean, we're dealing with agents. I mean, we've got, they're not the only ones. Most of our players don't have agents, but we've had a few. We've had some, but it's, but there's an understanding of growth, of what they're, what is a good situation for somebody. Mm-hmm. This particular agent is getting 15% from his players. And that comes from the players. It doesn't come from the school. I'll give you some. Lauren Carlini's giving her agent 5%, right? 5%. But it comes from the pro teams. In college, the money comes from the player. So it's not the schools paying the agents, it's the players that are paying it. So 15% is going from the player to the agent. And so 15% is a massive number. That's a really big number. And this particular agent is getting 20% from one of the Love Madison players, and who just fired him, because 20% is ridiculous, right? Mm-hmm. Just too much. And so there is incentive when you have an agent of continuing to shop players around that will pay more and more money. And I think that's what we got here. And then all this other crap just kind of came along with it, of building momentum. And I asked this agent, all right, when are you coming for Lopez? You SOB, you've gotten three. You sank your claws in here. When are you coming for the fourth? And, so I mean, that's where we're at. It was emotional because of somebody that seemed to be having such a perfect fit and having so much fun, and really on her way. She was thriving. She was having a blast. And then all of a sudden, within 48 hours, that it's become almost a totally different human. I had a really tough time getting my head wrapped around that.
So 6 players decide to transfer out. You have to fill those spots. You got freshmen coming in. Now the transfer portal's open. Now your season is done, and you're trying to construct a roster. I guess real quick, how many did you think were going to transfer?
All right. So this is one of the things. I was talking with let's say a coach that was in the Sweet 16 last night. I'm having this conversation, and he was talking to a player, a transfer from another school that he assumed was going to come here. There was a kid in the portal that wanted to come here. She wanted to come here. A very, very, very good player. But we were going to be pretty stacked on the pins. And although she would be an upgrade, I was not prepared to go and I did not want to have meetings with our players while we're in the NCAA tournament to talk about their futures. And I certainly did not want to get in the headspace of saying, all right, who am I going to let go so I can make room for this person? So we said, we don't have a spot, but if you stay open, once our season's over, we'll assess and we'll see. Well, this coach in the Sweet 16, him and I were talking last night, and the same player he talked to, and he said, I assume that you're going to Madison, to Wisconsin. And she said, no, they don't have room. Well, what this coach knew that I did not know, as this agent had already reached out to him and said, hey, these players are going into the portal at Wisconsin when they're done. I just want to let you know for planning. So he knew Wisconsin was going to have room for this kid before Wisconsin knew they were going to have room for this kid. And those are some of the things that are happening behind the scenes of agents or parents. I know, some, that is, they're reaching out to other schools at a time that that it should all be, we try to encourage people to be where their feet are, right? But because of our portal window, it encourages some of this stuff to happen behind the scenes. We heard from an agent of a starter of a team that was in the top 5 of the country going into the tournament. This player is going to go into the portal. I'm just letting you know. And after hearing that, it was obvious to me who it was, although that name was never mentioned. There was no conversation whatsoever. But, I looked at that text and I was like, my God, I mean, this kid could really be a national champion. And we're thinking about reserving a spot on another roster instead of being where your feet are and being all the way in. And that's where that portal window it's a shame. And then you mix it with some of what I would call shenanigans and just, crap. And you got to deal with that. But we're dealing with it about like this. When you're looking at what football and what basketball is having to do, I mean, it's just so much more so. But it's part of our jobs. It's part of our jobs that has never been there.
Yeah, there's nothing you can do to try to. I mean, will the portal window ever be moved?
So I thought yes, but we've got a committee that actually I'm part of it, and apparently they met during the Final Four, and it seems like what I was told last night, that more of them either want to keep it where it is or they want to move it up. And the philosophy from the people on that committee is this only affects a few of you guys, and we want to get on with trying to figure out what our rosters are. So we don't want to wait. I think we are stealing from the season. I think we're stealing from the tournament. I think we're stealing from people's experiences by not waiting at least until the day afterwards. But they feel like, hey, nobody feels sorry that Wisconsin didn't get this kid that they wanted. Nobody feels sorry for that. Which is fine. But when you're taking away opportunities, somebody's preferred opportunity, I don't care if it's Wisconsin or Timbuktu, right? When you're limiting options for players, what are we doing? It's not good for the tournament, the end of our season, and it is not good for the players. But because it's good for some of our schools, let's set this up in a way. That part of it disgusts me.
And then what has it been like then? So you learn you got 6 going out, however, route that happens.
Yeah.
And now you got it. Now you've got players graduating, 6 leaving, and now you got a roster to fill, and the portal's already been open.
Look, you're cranking, right? And we knew, so we got Jayla Guest, who I think is one of the most dynamic middles in the country. And, she committed. And then we got Ava Travis from Santa Barbara, who had I got a text message, I think, from Joy Furbringer, and said, hey, this kid, you got to take a look at. And things were just happening so fast. I mean, it's just not these guys. I mean, we're looking at 30 kids, right? I mean, it's kind of all hands on deck watching film and everything. And I really liked her game on film, But that night, she was about ready to commit to another school. The first time I heard from her, she was going to commit to another school that night. And we had a phone call in between. So her and I talked, had a really good conversation. And I said, look, and it seemed like she was interested. And I said, before we move any further, I want you to call Charlie. Go and have a conversation with Charlie. Not for her to sell you on it. I want you, from a player's perspective, to know what you're getting into, And so they did that. And I said, call me back. Well, I fell asleep. And so she tried me a couple times. I woke up in the morning and saw missed calls, and then a text that just said, hey, text me when you can. So early in the morning, I text her, and she gets back immediately. It was like really, really early her time. And she goes, I can talk right now. And so we get on a call real early in the morning, and she commits right then, which was really cool. And then Isabel Hoppy, who was, one of the top setters in her class, who'd been committed to Pitt. And, we hear that things went very, very quick with her. Izzy Stark decided to go to Pitt, and the day that was announced, they told Isabel what was happening, and that they were going to try to get 3 years for her. And so I think there was a lot of frustration with the timing of letting them know, and the fact that it was 3 years was just too much. I think those things combined. So they reached out to me. We got on a call immediately. You could tell right away that this was where things were. And I said, hey, we have a need. This is great. You boys love this program. Your family's from here, but let's slow down here, because I don't want you to commit here in 6 months from now saying, what did I do? I just jumped the gun. And so we kind of tried to talk, and our parents kind of got on a call on the FaceTime as well. We're talking, and then it was just like, all right, let's go. All this was on that call. And she said yes. And then the house erupts. And what I didn't know going into that was her grandparents were in the room. It was the whole family that was in there, and everybody's just kind of on pins and needles and been celebrating with her. That was really, really neat. just how fast some of these things go, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's just it's insane. Now, but that's where a great staff. I mean, because everybody's with all these guys, they're digging in on film. They're we're asking our players what we know of people. You're digging into social media stuff on all these guys. you know, but then some of the things that really kind of irritates you, I talked to somebody who ended up telling me she didn't want to come here because of somebody else that decided to come here, didn't want to be teammates with her. And which is fine. But because rumor had it that a player was going to commit to us. Well, then that player commits to us that day. And the other player that told me earlier that day that she didn't want to play with this person is on her social media saying, "Oh my God, I love you. You're the best. You're going to have a great career. I'm so jealous of you." And I'm sitting there. I said, "You just ripped this kid to me."
Yeah.
2 hours ago, and now you're on her social media saying how much you love her and how proud you are. It's weird, man. I mean, all of this is I'm trying, just trying to get your head wrapped around and try to be good for your current players, trying to be responsive when things are happening, trying to do your due diligence, trying to, at a time that used to be really quiet. I mean, this used to be a time that you just hung out with your family, and but no, you're almost busier. Or in this case, we were busier. We were as busy, if not busier, than what we were preparing for our tournament matches for those few days right after, which is insane.
Just everything is different now moving forward. That's for sure. And you have to be responsive, and everybody is. Even people that aren't losing players right now, it's everybody's still having these meetings. They're having the meetings about their with their players and with their teams. Everybody's having it. You're not being responsible if you're not having those. And most of us aren't quite sure what we're going to have, but these guys have options. I don't blame people for leaving. I'm very pro people have the ability to leave. Now, with that, I think some people, if they dug in, if they gave it a little bit more time, it would be better for them personally. But if somebody views that leaving is better for them, I remember Trinity. Trinity talked with me. I mean, there was a lot of tears. She loved her experience here. She loved this here, and Addie and Miley were the exact same way. I mean, it was really, really hard. I could understand somebody like Trinity. I think back when I was at Dayton, I could have coached at Dayton for the rest of my life and been really, really happy. So it wasn't that when I left there that I was unhappy. I was extremely happy. But there was something else that Wisconsin that I thought was, man, this could be even better for me and my family and our goals and things. And Trinity loved her experience here. And I think the possibility of something a little bit better for her when that window of opportunity is just shrinking and shrinking. Man, I don't blame that. I don't blame that at all. I think that's awesome. And now the portal's closed, so you still have roster spots to fill. So you have to wait till it opens again, right, in May? Is that the next time?
Yeah, May. So in our sport right now, we still have 2 portal windows, and I think most of the coaches we're talking to are expecting more. I think there was more talent this December and January than was last year. I think most of us are thinking. Most coaches seem to feel like it's going to be even busier, much busier this May than what it was last May.
Okay.
And but yeah, we still need some bodies because I've got a roster to fill, and we've got to get to that. But we're so we'll either do it through transfers or international. It'll be one of those two.
Okay. All right. Let's take some questions from the fans. Are you ready for that?
Yeah.
Okay, I got a whole bunch of questions here. I'm not sure if we'll get to all of them or not, but questions from the fans next. This is the Kelly Sheffield Show, brought to you by North and South Seafood and Smokehouse on the Wisconsin Badgers Volleyball Radio Network. And welcome back to the Kelly Sheffield Show, brought to you by North and South Seafood and Smokehouse on the Wisconsin Badgers Volleyball Radio Network, talking about the offseason with Wisconsin and head coach Kelly Sheffield. Now, I put out the question on X asking if fans had questions for you, Coach. We got a whole bunch. I'm not sure if I'm just kind of reading these on the fly, so here we go. Steve asks, can you please ask Coach, with all the transfers in all sports, is there still the rule that the athletes have to show progress toward a degree to stay eligible anymore, or is it obsolete?
I don't know. No, they do.
Okay.
But I think about some of these quarterbacks that are just going every year.
Every year.
Or
Yeah.
AJ Store, every year for 5 years or whatever. How is that possible? But with summer school classes, that certainly makes it a little bit easier on some of these guys. But yeah, they've got to show that is still a factor. We still have within our program at a school like this, we still want our players at a certain GPA because I want them excelling. I want to take them their school seriously. It's an unbelievable opportunity to go to a school like this, and I don't want there to be regrets and then them just getting by. But yeah, there is still that. But yeah,
Okay.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Mercy asks, is there anything fans can do to support the lobbying effort to move the transfer portal window? You and I talked about that. We'd love to add our voices. If there's a constructive way to do it, let us know how we can help. Is there anything fans can do?
How fans can do? I don't know. I mean, I'm in it, and apparently there's nothing I can do. It's I think it robs joy in the most joyous time of the year. But because there's only 64 teams that are making the tournament and you have 300 teams that don't, well, when you start counting votes, those teams that aren't in the tournament and they've been out for a couple weeks, they're ready to do something about it. They want to, and if we don't have it figured out, those teams that are still playing, well, that's even better for them. So it's it's not better for the players, but it's better for the teams that are not making the tournament. And I'm not sure. It sounds like we're probably going to lose that fight.
A couple about the backcourt here, but basically Colby asks if only one back row player currently on the roster. Has Coach been in contact with any back row players in the portal?
Yes.
Yeah. And how's that new backcourt going to be? Asked Jerry.
Well, it's incomplete right now. I mean, we clearly, I loved the growth of Kristen Simon. I thought she had a great freshman season. I thought she got better and better as we went. I thought the number she passed in our last match were while she was hurt. I mean, she was really, really hurt, but she was passing at such a high level, and her serve was one of our highest point scoring. Her movement defensively, there was a couple balls that she just hesitated on that I think she wished she had those back. But, she was battling and grinding and putting up some really, really nice numbers that we just stayed with her. And there was no reason not to. I think she passed over a 2.4, almost a 2.5 in that match, and just getting bombarded. And she was handling that. And but we've got a bunch of outsides that can also pass. I mean, every one of our pin hitters are very, very good passers and can attack out of the back row. And so do we need 6 DSs? I don't think we do, but certainly would like to have a couple more. And we'll see what happens moving forward of how we fill that.
Let's see here. Well, Big Al asks if you felt blindsided. Obviously, you did with one transfer, but did you feel blindsided by the volume of portal departures, which seemed unusual, especially at positions without as much depth? Does the staff discuss with players also during the season?
What I felt blindsided by was the timing.
Yeah.
That we're that we're 12 hours away from the match. We're still there. We're still doing team stuff. And the need to have these meetings following one of the most tight-knit groups that I've ever had. I mean, this team, it wasn't us not being aware. This team really enjoyed playing with each other, really got along very, very, very well. But we knew that there was a possibility people were going to leave. You're never naive to that. And it certainly makes sense for many of them of what their goals are. So I would say people leaving did not surprise us. Who left, probably not surprised. Maybe the volume of who, because you kind of think, well, this person may, but I think they'll probably stay. Like Trinity, I thought it made sense for her to maybe give it a run one more year because she really enjoyed here and her teammates. Anaya, my God, give yourself one semester of training in the spring because she wasn't here last spring. Go after her, So it wasn't a surprise, but I didn't. Everybody that was kind of teetering, most of them decided to go. So the volume of it surprised, but the timing of it was, you're so happy for the season. You're gutted for the loss. Now you're having to make, having these conversations with people before you even get back here. And now you're trying to think, why not only when I'm having these conversations, but at the same time, all right, what needs are we needing in the portal that I got to do immediately before these other people are making, man, that's a lot going on at a really emotional time. That was a lot. And and then talking with our staff, I mean, everybody's kind of in some different spots, and I'd call one coach and like, hey, do this, and somebody else this, and somebody doing this, and so there was a lot of connection between me and one coach, but we all weren't here, and so they're learning about a lot of this stuff from somebody else on staff a lot. Which is also really unusual.
I think we'll end with this. Well, actually one more before we end with this one. So basically you got to re-recruit. Pete asks, many coaches in football or basketball talk about having to re-recruit their team each year in this portal era and NIL era. I mean, that's something now that you have to do. Have you? I mean,
no, that's not what I do.
You don't.
Maybe I should, but no.
Okay.
No, it's being clear with understanding what their goals are. I always need to know what their goals are because I feel like we're trying to help them reach their goals and their dreams. So it's not about what I'm wanting. It's necessarily what are they wanting, and does your work ethic match what your goals are? And if it does, then let's go. And if it doesn't, then I've got to be honest with them and say, hey, you're saying this, but you're doing this. And we've either got to change your goals or how you're working. And then when people want to know, all right, they want some clarity on their role, where I see them, where I project them. Now you're putting in the factor of with some of them of making money. And is that an alignment of what their goals are? Some people are putting that right at the top of what it is that they're wanting. We don't have very many of those in our program, to be honest with you. But but for some of them, it can be significant, and it does play a factor into some. But I think you're talking to them about all of these things and their experience. And I think one of the things I think some people are taking for granted is the support that they get at this program, the support from the fan base, the support, how we travel, the NLI opportunities here, a staff that has had some continuity to it for well over a decade. These guys are treated very, very well. And I think some players that leave, it's not at that level of importance with their university, but maybe it's worth it if they're getting more playing time. And I don't have a problem with that. Maybe it's worth it if they're getting paid more. I don't know if I haven't necessarily have a problem with that either. But you put everything on the table. And what you've got to be is you've got to be a great communicator, and you've got to be honest. And I'm not going to lie to somebody or give them false hope just to keep them here. So I don't look at myself as re-recruiting. I don't do that. But just having honest conversations and knowing that, hey, I want them to do great things with their lives. I hear from quite a few people that have left here and, checking in or wishing happy birthday, or, I'll text them and say, hey, I'm really proud of the year that you just put together. Not everybody are we having those kind of communications with after they leave, but quite a few. And I think they appreciate their time here, and I'm rooting for them moving forward.
Final question from Serena. What is your proudest moment from this season and biggest learning opportunity that you're taking away from this year going into next season?
My proudest is that our players bought in. They believed in the coaches. They believed in each other. I'm really proud of, there's so many. I'm proud of how Mimi grew into a player that would just kind of go with the flow to really going and taking our game to the next level. I'm really, really proud of how Allie came in and really led in her way in important ways. I'm really proud of my God, how Charlie and Carter both grew as leaders. Charlie of being kind of taken away from the game for, half of a season, and how she came back afterwards, how Carter was at the end of the year. That's as inspiring of a performance as anybody has ever had for me. I'm proud of Grace Egan of being able to switch to a different position. On and on and on. There's so many things. I'm proud of our coaches, John came in, and Lauren, these were first years of being coaching roles in our program, and how they fit in with Britt. I thought Britt was one of her best years of coaching. I thought she was really good, and John have taken or Gary taken his new role and what he did and how much he took off of my plate and things. I'm proud of this entire group. I'm proud of our season, of what we put down. We'll be able to hang a banner when we get back in here. They'll be able to get Final Four rings. They'll celebrate this team 20 years from now. And I don't think too many people had this on their bingo card of where this team would finish and where this team would grow. But we talked to them every step of the way that we really felt if they kind of bought in, they came together, they got tougher, they were able to be better, stronger communicators, that this team was capable of being the last team standing. And we gave ourselves our best shot.
Well, thank you for this 2025 season, and we're looking forward to 2026 and how everything plays out, how the roster plays out, and then, of course, when it gets underway for real. Thanks, Coach.
I will leave you with this. I think we're about ready to put together the toughest schedule in Division I college volleyball history.
Oh, boy.
There's your tease, my friend.
Oh, I can't wait to talk about that next on the Kelly Sheffield Show. Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Jon.
All right, this has been the Kelly Sheffield Show, brought to you by North and South Seafood and Smokehouse on the Wisconsin Badgers Volleyball Radio Network.